You are sitting there eating, just picking up another bite, when you look up and realize your dog has been sitting there the whole time. A few steps away, back straight, completely still, eyes locked on you. No barking, no jumping up, no pawing at your leg to beg. Just sitting there, staring so intensely, for so long, that your meal starts to feel a little less comfortable. And almost every dog owner thinks the same thing in that moment. It wants food. It wants whatever is in my hand. It is waiting for me to give in. And that sounds perfectly reasonable, because what dog has not given that look before? A lot of people watching right now are probably thinking, exactly, my dog does that too. But here is the strange part. Sometimes, even when your dog does not actually need that bite of food, it still looks at you with that exact same expression. And that is the moment this stops being a simple case of begging. In this video, we are going to uncover the real reason behind that familiar stare, and by the end, you may realize your dog has been loving you in a deeper way than you ever thought. If your dog does this too, comment its name below. 1. The oxytocin loop, a biological bond of affection. First, there is one very important thing to understand. Dogs do not look at you the same way they look at the objects around them. To them, the human face and the human eyes are a very special source of information. Over a very long period of living alongside people, the dogs that were better at reading human signals had a better chance of being cared for and surviving. That is why staring is not a random behavior. It is a meaningful form of communication. The first layer, and maybe the deepest one, is attachment. One of the most famous studies on the relationship between dogs and humans is the study by Nagasawa and colleagues. The results showed that when dogs and their owners look into each other's eyes in a friendly way, oxytocin levels rise in both. Oxytocin is the hormone associated with trust, closeness, and emotional bonding. Even more interesting, this creates a positive loop. The warmer the gaze, the more oxytocin rises, and the stronger the bond becomes. The researchers also suggested that this loop is strikingly similar to the bonding mechanism between a mother and child in humans. So what does that mean in everyday life between you and your dog? It means there are moments when your dog is not looking at you for food, not asking for a walk, and not trying to play. It is simply and quietly confirming that you are still there. Picture a very familiar moment. You are sitting on the couch, your dog is lying by your feet. It lifts its head and looks at you for a few seconds, then puts its head back down. On the surface, it looks completely ordinary, but that may be its way of checking that the person it trusts is still nearby, everything is still safe, and the bond is still intact. That look becomes a biological bridge between two species. But the truly interesting part goes beyond attachment. Dogs do not just use eye contact to bond, they also use it to watch you and read your emotions. 2. The ability to read emotion and facial expressions. Many studies show that dogs can distinguish human facial expressions, including happy faces and angry faces, even when the person is someone they have never met before. That matters, because it shows dogs are not just recognizing a face, they are also processing the emotional state attached to that face. In other words, when your dog looks at you, it may be trying to understand what kind of emotional state you are in. That is why so many people feel like their dog knows when they are sad, even before they have outwardly shown sadness or anxiety. You are still going about your day as usual, but your dog keeps watching you, or quietly moves a little closer. Humans often hide their emotions by acting like they are fine. But to a dog, emotion shows through your face, your eyes, muscle tension, movement, posture, and breathing. And dogs are very good at reading those signals. Eye tracking studies have also found something called left gaze bias, which suggests that dogs do not process human faces randomly. They appear to pay special attention to emotional and social information. In other words, when your dog looks at you for a long time, it may be trying to read you, to figure out whether today you are truly at peace or quietly carrying something heavy inside. 3. Staring as a practical tool. Your dog wants something. There is also another very common reason your dog stares at you. It wants something specific. Picture this. You walk toward the leash, and it looks at you. You step into the kitchen, and it looks at you. You open the food cabinet, and your dog follows every move. You are eating something that smells good, and it cannot take its eyes off you. This is not random behavior. According to veterinary behavior and training sources, eye contact is one of the clearest ways dogs communicate with humans. Dogs quickly learn that your actions determine what happens next. Will I get food or not? Are we about to go outside? So many times, that stare is really a silent question. Is it time to eat yet? Are we going out? What should I do next? This becomes even more obvious during training. A dog that looks at its owner with focus is not just being good. It is ready to receive a signal and adjust its behavior accordingly. Put simply, that look means, I am waiting for instructions. And here is something especially fascinating about a dog's stare. A comparative anatomy study between dogs and wolves found that dogs show a pronounced development of the facial muscle called the levator anguli oculi medialis, or LAOM. This muscle helps lift the inner eyebrow, creating that sad, young, almost helpless expression that makes humans soften instantly. Researchers believe this may be the result of long-term selection, as dogs lived alongside humans. So when your dog sits quietly and looks at you with wide eyes and slightly raised inner brows, that is not just cute. It is also the trace of a long evolutionary process that made dogs better and better at communicating with humans. If you have ever given in because of that look, hit like on this video and do not forget to share it with someone else who loves dogs too, because the next part explains a moment that makes many owners laugh, when in reality, it may be the moment your dog feels most vulnerable and trusts you the most. Or the poop stare, trust and protection. Have you ever noticed your dog looking at you while it is going to the bathroom? It sounds funny, but this is actually a very common behavior. The most reasonable explanation has to do with vulnerability. When dogs relieve themselves, they are less able to react quickly and are in a less agile state than usual, so they often look toward the person they trust for reassurance. PetMD describes this pretty well. Many dogs seem to be checking whether you are standing guard for them. If you think about it from an instinctive perspective, it makes perfect sense. Any living creature, in its most vulnerable moment, wants to know whether the area around it is safe. So that look is usually not random, and it is not just some meaningless habit. It may be a small, but very clear sign of trust. When I cannot protect myself at my best, I look for you. 5. When does staring become something to worry about? But not every stare from a dog is affectionate, and a lot of owners misread this. According to the American Kennel Club, soft eyes, slow blinking, and a relaxed body usually signal safety. On the other hand, a hard stare, a fixed, intense look with very little blinking, especially when paired with a stiff body or resource-guarding behavior, can be a warning sign. In that case, you should step back and give the dog space. The American Kennel Club also notes that whale eye, when a dog shows a lot of the whites of its eyes, is often associated with stress, anxiety, or feeling pushed beyond its comfort zone. So if you want to understand your dog's eyes, you cannot just look at the eyes alone. You have to read the whole body, whether it is relaxed or tense, how much distance it is keeping from you, and whether it is moving closer or backing away. Loving dogs does not mean romanticizing every behavior. Loving dogs means correctly reading the signals they are trying to send. And there is one more case you really should not ignore: an older dog staring at the wall, staring into space, or standing still as if it is stuck in a familiar place. Materials from Cornell and VCA note that staring into space, staring at walls, disorientation, changes in sleep patterns, and getting lost in familiar surroundings can be signs of cognitive dysfunction syndrome in dogs, often compared to a form of cognitive decline similar to Alzheimer's disease in humans. That means sometimes a stare is not about attachment. It is a warning. Dogs do not always need to be explained through a beautiful emotional lens. Sometimes they need to be observed more carefully, understood more accurately, and taken to the veterinarian. If you have made it this far, you are probably starting to see that a behavior that seems so small can carry many layers of meaning, and this is where the whole picture comes together. So by now, you probably understand why dogs stare at us. To a dog, eye contact is an incredibly sophisticated communication tool. Your dog is not just looking at you, it is connecting with you, reading you, relying on you, or asking you to understand it. And maybe that is one of the most extraordinary things about the relationship between dogs and humans. With just one look, two completely different species can create a bond so deep that it changes behavior, emotion, and even biology in both of them. So after this video, the next time you catch your dog looking at you, look back with affection and pay close attention to how your dog may be feeling, the same way your dog has been quietly watching over you every day. And if you want to understand more of these small but deeply meaningful signals, subscribe and stay with us for the next videos.